evening, folks, and welcome to another edition of An Hour with Bob. We have an interesting show for you tonight. We always say that, right? But we do have an interesting show for you tonight. And before I get into it, I'd like to mention right off the bat, I'm happy that Stop and Shop didn't go on strike. They settled their disagreement. The union's back working. Everybody's happy. They signed a new contract, several-year contract. And tonight we're going to talk about a few things. One of the things we're going to talk about is chronic back pain. Sunday night last night, since this is taped on Monday, if you're watching it, you're probably watching it on Thursday. We taped this show on the 11th of March, 2013. And I watched the show Sunday night on 60 Minutes, one of my favorite TV shows, I might add, on the NECC lab, the pharmaceutical lab in Massachusetts, and how they were not doing well with their pharmaceutical products. First of all, they shouldn't have been manufacturing. They were not a factory, and they shouldn't have been doing it. And what was ridiculous was they actually had a rubbish transfer station within 100 feet, 100 yards away from where they were supposedly being in the sterile environment, making these concoctions and compounds for people with chronic and severe pain. And we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about that in a personal way tonight, because it just came a time that this is the right time to do it. But before we get into that, I want to say hi to Dave Raposa from AAA. David, how you doing?
Thanks, Bob. I'm doing well.
Nice to see you. How's my old friend, Bob, retired, right?
Bob Murray retired about 5 years ago. Sat in this chair.
Yes, he did, a few times.
Probably more than once.
A few times.
Told me last week that I finally made it.
Yeah.
Since I'm going to be here.
Well, you know it's funny you say that, because Gene Valicenti, who's holds the record, by the way, on this show. He's also probably has the highest ratings of any TV personality, or certainly up there. And he always says that you haven't made it till you spent an hour with Bob, or part of an hour with Bob. And, well, I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I want to talk about AAA, as I love AAA. I mean, I've been a member of AAA since in the 70s. It's awful warm in here, isn't it, Corey? Since, I'll bet you, 74, 75, maybe at the very latest 77, 1977. That puts me in a different group, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
In fact, when I first joined, it wasn't even, I think I probably joined ALA, and then in 1970-something, they switched us over to AAA, or I joined AAA, because ALA was going down or whatever, and I switched over to AAA. The benefits AAA offers are much more than starting your car, helping you when you get the keys locked in your car, giving you gas when you run out of gas. They're much more, fixing a flat tire. I was amazed over the years how the benefits have expanded. The different things. Tell me about some of the things that AAA offers that most people wouldn't think that they offer.
Well, as you mentioned, everybody knows us for the roadside assistance.
Sure.
As they should. It's the #1 reason people join, #1 reason people renew their membership. But here in Rhode Island, you can come into any one of our offices and renew your driver's license.
Exactly, and right there, you know something, and I'm stopping you right there, because I went down the registry because I forgot to renew my registration, so I had to go in person and renew my registration. I'm at the registry, and somebody said to me, "Are you a member of AAA?" I go, "Yeah, of course I am." They said, "Well, you could have went right over to Branch Avenue, Silver Spring Street, and renewed your registration." I go, "Oh my God, I didn't even think of that." There you go.
And we've been doing some type of registry services for over 20 years. The license is fairly new, but it's been extremely popular. Now, another area that has really climbed the ladder of popularity is in discounts. Now, everybody has discounts.
Yes, yes.
But AAA members, because of our volume, our numbers, we're able to go out to partners, local, statewide, nationally, whether it's a car rental or a pizza, and negotiate discounts on behalf of the membership. So that club deal program that AAA has, really has become much more popular than it might have been 10 years ago. Now, sitting right in the middle of it is still all the travel advice.
Right.
There are still people who would like to sit head to head with an auto travel counselor with the maps open wide on the desk and say, okay, let's plan a trip across the country.
Right.
A lot of it's done online now, but those
I still like the
counselors,
maps. I still like the physical map in my hand.
and so do the counselors. You know, they're very skilled people, but you know, you can get from here to Washington to Florida by Route 95.
Right.
It's not the hardest thing in the world to do.
Right.
But go to a travel counselor and say, I'd like to visit a whole bunch of Civil War battlefields.
On the way.
On the way. Now,
Yes,
that's a challenge
yes.
to the counselor, and it's a lot of fun. And for the member, it's a chance to know that they get personalized service. And that's still what we're all about.
And plus the construction. You talk about
We talk
the
about construction.
the problems. You know.
But that's what people still appreciate from us, is the fact that we live in a world now where sometimes good service gets noticed when it should have been bad service getting noticed. But when good service gets noticed, people comment on it now.
Right, right.
And they get that from us every day.
They're not used to it. They're not used to personalized service, first of all. They're not used to somebody answering the phone. They're not used to talking to an individual.
That's
they're used
right.
They're used to getting press 3 for this and 5 for that and 8 for that. And that's not the case.
And even at the roadside, I mean, people have their cars towed if need be, but wouldn't you much rather be able to drive your car away knowing that you didn't have to be towed and then have to wait to have it fixed?
Right.
Well, that's why we get into the battery business.
Right.
So you can get a battery at the roadside.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
We'll come right out there, sell you a battery, install it, you drive away instead of us having to tow you to a garage.
Right.
We do windshield repair and replacement. And we are constantly training our drivers to do better with repairs, because cars are so
No,
sophisticated now.
wait. What do you mean windshield repair? Like somebody gets a busted windshield.
AAA glass. We can repair right on the scene or replace a windshield at one of our shops.
Holy cow.
So it just goes on and on.
Right, and I do know, I was with one of my brothers. He's very, very frugal, so to speak, and we were at in Massachusetts there, that discount outlets there. The heck is the name of it?
Rentham Village?
Rentham Village, and I'm in buying a pair of sneakers, and if there was this place you buy one, you get so much. You buy 2, the second one's half price. You buy 3, the third one's free. And then they tack on a AAA discount on top of it. And I didn't know that. I never knew that.
Yeah, there's often a sign in those places, a AAA logo that says "Show your card and save."
Right.
And that's a pre-negotiated discount just for AAA members. And again, they're at retail locations. They're all over the place. So, you know, for when people pay their bill every year,
Right.
we want them to get a little bit every time they use us.
Sure.
And if they use us for travel, maybe they'll get a good deal on a trip to Disney. They'll come renew their license. And if they can do that without standing in line, they figure their membership's paid for life.
Absolutely. Well, just one time, having to, like, I used to drive up to Milton, Vermont, and even though it wasn't as good for all the way up to Milton, but if I get stuck within 100 miles of either destination, it didn't cost me anything to get towed if I had to be towed, and that was just a peace of mind of knowing that I wasn't going to get ripped off. And that's the other thing. If somebody has their car fixed, I was driving to Rochester, New York one time, a long time ago, and we blew a fan belt in the car, and the car was taken to a garage. It was a AAA garage, and they had to go by certain rules and regulations and pricing as to how much they could charge us for that fan belt. Had we not been AAA members, they could have charged us anything.
Yeah, we have a program called AAA Approved Auto Repair, and if you go to one of those facilities and there's a dispute, they have already agreed that AAA will arbitrate and they'll abide by the decision. And those facilities are all over Rhode Island, Bristol County, Mass, our whole territory.
Right. And the same thing with the achievements that you've I don't know, over the last 10 years, the difference in membership has expanded to things that, like you said, the glass. There are just so many things, the batteries, there's so many things that you do now that you didn't do back in the day, back 15 or 20 years ago, I guess.
Well, it's a competitive marketplace. and there are people out there that have those services.
Right.
So
you have to put them together,
and
right?
we're always looking to provide value. I mean, that's why we're heavily involved in driver training, you know.
And you have it in school too. I mean, you have you offer services in the schools. You go to the schools and teach kids.
We're in the schools almost every day, whether it's pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, school bus safety. We're there when we have poster contests. We're there when the kids are small, right up through when they start driving. Then we have a driving school and everything that goes through that, right on through adulthood when they become regular members of AAA. So we try to introduce them to AAA at a young age,
right,
but really through the prism of safety. AAA, for example, started the School Safety Patrol. So you see with the kids out there with the belts and badges,
right,
those were started back in the 1930s. In fact, one of the very first communities in the country was Woonsocket that actually started the School Safety Patrol. And certain communities have been extremely active. In my time, there's never been a more active community, for example, than Fall River when it comes to traffic safety.
Right. And why is that?
I just think it was a history that they had of having committed traffic safety officers that they would send into the schools. And even now, you know, East Providence, Smithfield, Woonsocket, there's a long list of communities that buy into safety. And we piloted a national program for AAA a year or so ago in Woonsocket called Walk Safe, and it was designed because the community had a lot of kids that had to walk to school but had to walk a long distance,
right,
and maybe didn't have sidewalks. So those kids are at risk when they're walking.
Sure.
So we did it up there. We just got back from doing it in Brockton, Massachusetts, where we hit 10,000 kids with this one program. So at all levels of traffic safety, you know, there's a AAA program that's available, and that's great. Our CEO, my boss, everybody up there, when Bob was there, you know, they put their money where my mouth is, and we back these programs. We're in the schools all the time, and it's great. I mean, the message of safety, you can't really go wrong.
And it's especially poignant and important with the teen drivers, right?
Absolutely, because teen drivers, you know, they're out there, they have all the physical skills in the world, but they don't have the experience.
They don't have the experience and the concentration, maybe?
Concentration as well.
Attention span?
It's going to take a new driver, no matter how old they are, it's going to take a new driver 5 years to be any good.
Right.
Now, kids' brains are still developing up until they're about 25. So they're out there with new licenses,
right,
and they're feeling, yeah, this is great. I've got control of the car.
Right.
But look what's going on nowadays. Cell phones,
texting.
Every distraction you can think of is facing every driver.
Right.
But to the new drivers who aren't that used to looking far down the road to identify problems, they're not worried about following distance, they look down at that keypad for a moment and somebody up ahead of them stops, they're right into their rear end.
I'm sure you know the statistic. A car at 50 miles an hour and the person's looking down at his texting. How long does it take them to readjust? How far does the car travel?
Oh, you're gonna go several football fields.
Several football fields.
You know, if you're distracted for just a couple of seconds at that length of speed.
Right.
But just think about these distractions. I'll be driving next to somebody talking on the phone.
Right.
And you'll say, oh, look at that jerk talking on the phone. Then you're driving next to somebody who's doing this, eyes are on the road, everything looks perfect. But in the meantime, on the radio, Buddy Cianci is railing about something. That driver is totally distracted. Go get him, buddy.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all of that. So distractions are constant.
Or women doing makeup. You know, I've seen that.
Well, you said that.
A few times. Yeah. Or guys doing makeup.
You know,
I don't know.
But managing those distractions is probably one of the biggest challenges that drivers face right now.
Right.
In addition to not falling asleep. I almost don't want to go out and drive after this because 250,000 people a day
fall asleep,
doze off behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Even if it's just this, it's still that they doze off.
Well, the same thing you said about the texting. If you doze off, and you might travel 5 football fields.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And
I know I fall asleep a few times when I've driven to Vermont. I used to fall asleep. I just put in cruise control.
And a lot of times people in that situation, they get to where they're going and they say,
How did I get
here?
Yeah.
Where was I the last 5 miles?
Right.
Well, you were there, but you were totally out of it.
And that's no different than being drunk, really. When you
it really does have the same impact. You're right.
Now, how about elderly drivers? What do you think of
Sure.
limiting the age of elderly drivers? How do you?
Not at all. Age in and of itself
doesn't do anything.
doesn't matter.
Right.
In fact,
every individual circumstance, right?
now the reality is, though, as we get older,
right,
the aging process does start to slow us down.
Or maybe you.
Starts to slow me down. Because people will say, I still see it, but it takes me a second longer to react to it.
Right.
I myself, you mentioned Stop and Shop at the beginning. If I'm in the parking lot at Stop and Shop and I go to back out of the parking space, I get more and more worried now that I'm not seeing something.
Sure.
That,
Especially when people walk behind your car, it drives me crazy when they walk so close to your car. I don't get that.
But what can happen is there are easy steps people can take. We have driver improvement classes that go on all the time. And we talk to older drivers about how you use your eyes. Are you looking down the road as far as you should?
Right.
Are you leaving enough space? Because all you need to do is recognize that it's going to take you a split second longer, and then
adjust
give yourself a little more time to react.
Yep.
Now, easy for me to say, if you have arthritis over here and you go to make a head check before you change lanes, that's not as easy to do. So we talk to people about how they set their mirrors. And there's a lot of different things you can do. But age in and of itself, in fact, there's only one state, which I believe is Illinois, where when you reach a certain age, they don't take it, but you're required to have a driving test.
Okay.
So
how often? Every year?
Probably every time you're up for renewal.
Oh,
so whatever. New Hampshire used to do it, but then they backed away and then they repealed it. Massachusetts thought about it a couple of years ago.
Right.
There was 2 or 3 years ago, there was a real run on, at least publicity, of crashes in Massachusetts involving older drivers. And the legislature got involved, and maybe they were going to do retesting. What we think probably happened was, as we get older, one of the things people, I think, realize, but they don't realize, is that your vision starts to go like this.
Right, more tunnel vision.
And everything that you used to see over here, you don't see anymore.
Right.
So when you go to the eye doctors and they tell you, raise your hand when you see a light, well, that's what's happening when you drive.
Right.
If you're like this, now you're not seeing people in crosswalks.
Sure.
But there's a lot of education out there now for older drivers, and people hopefully are staying younger longer. They're out there, they're being more active, they're keeping their brains more active.
Right.
So there really is no reason why older drivers can't drive safely for a long time, as long as they understand the limitations and make the adjustments.
All right. You've already hit on a couple of them. What are some of the more emerging issues on safety for all drivers?
Yeah, like I said, distracted driving really is the one that's sitting there, because it's easy to talk about phones and texting, but what about what they call infotainment? All that stuff that might show up on your dashboard.
By the way, why do they allow that? You can watch damn movies. I see some people watching a movie on their pad there that's in the center of the console. That shouldn't be allowed.
So what happens is those things become distractions.
Yes, that's why they shouldn't be there.
And so that becomes an emerging issue. And states can pass distracted driving laws. They're really hard to enforce. It's like aggressive driving laws. They're hard to enforce. But states are thinking about doing it that way. I did mention drowsy driving because that's another area where there's really got to be education. The bottom line, and this becomes really tough, cars are reasonably safe now as far as how they're made. Roadways are built to be relatively safe. The last thing that's out there is driver behavior, which is very hard to legislate. You can tell somebody that you should do this or you shouldn't do that, but it's really hard to, and I always use the example of right turn on red. You come to a place, and I live in Warwick, at the corner of Post Road and Airport Road in Warwick. Big sign, no right turn on red.
Right, people do it.
People do it. Well, why do they do it? Because they don't think there's any risk. It's okay, so I'm going to do it. I won't get caught. Now, the next time they're at the same intersection, do they go straight through the red light? Not in a million years.
Right.
But it's the same violation. Now they think if I go straight through the light, here comes all the police officers in town to pull me over. The back seat of the cruiser opens up. Here comes Gene Valicenti. Why'd you go through that red light? It's the entire perception of risk. So people do this because they don't think they'll get caught. They don't do this, but it's the same thing. And that's how people sometimes drive. That's how they often drive, based on how they think the level of risk is.
All right, last but not least, What does AAA do every day to help its members?
Well, when we go out there every day, we want to exceed expectations. You know, if you think that we're going to come up and tow your car and we're able to put a battery in so you can drive away, it's the better. We've exceeded your expectations. Right. If you come in,
you've also paid the membership.
Absolutely.
If you come in, pay the cost of the membership.
If you come in and you resign yourself to the fact that, yeah, we're going to go on this cruise, but I'm going to pay an arm and a leg because I see that this particular cruise line costs all this money.
Right.
You're going to walk out of there very happy because our travel agents are smart enough to say, what's your budget? What are your goals? Have you ever been on a cruise before? No matter when somebody comes to see us, they have an expectation because they come to the counter and they ask for something.
Right.
And immediately our goal is to say, how do we exceed it? And if we do that, we've done our job and we never worry about the renewal rate.
Well, I like that. I don't know if that's your slogan, but it should be.
Well,
it should be.
All right, I'll bring that in tomorrow.
Well, Dave, thank you for stopping by and
Pleasure.
spending part of an hour with Bob.
Okay, anytime.
You'll like my next guest. We'll be right back. We got a clip, and we're coming right back. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Despite the heroic efforts of law enforcement, only a fraction of the contraband is seized.
It's a cat and mouse game.
Now, the cartels are pushing the limits.
When you're talking about millions of dollars, there are millions of ways to get creative.
From submarines to super tunnels, ultralights.
It's Mad Max, really.
Even using puppies as drug mules.
To me, it's the height of animal cruelty.
It's an onslaught of one ingenious smuggling method after another.
We find ways of catching them. They come up with the catapult.
The cartels will actually lift that vehicle up over the top of this fence.
There are no limits on what they will do.
Go-fast boats, or cigarette boats, have long been the preferred method of transporting drugs over the open seas. Because of their stealth design, these vessels are difficult to detect by radar. And they can move at speeds of up to 80 miles an hour.
Speed on the water can be just as dangerous as speed on land when a car is racing down the highway at 80 miles an hour.
These extreme speeds have been especially risky for smugglers.
That boat crashes, or if somebody falls out of one of those boats, the water will kill them instantly. It's just like falling out of a car going this, a similar or an equivalent speed.
Since half of these boats either crash or are intercepted by law enforcement, Colombian cartels are forced to devise a new and better way to smuggle their drugs on the open seas and into the U.S. 60-foot-long semi-submarines capable of transporting over $100 million worth of cocaine.
Capturing a semi-sub is a significant event. It represents a huge loss for any drug trafficking organization.
These vessels are built in the dense Colombian jungles where there are no roads, offering the cartels a place to work in total secrecy.
Well, folks, we're back on an hour with Bob with a good friend. I don't want to say old friend. I only mean old friend because you've been around here a while. You've come around. You still look great. You look like $1 million. Huh? How you doing?
I never look like
How you
you.
doing? Tom Hodgson. How you doing?
Great to be here. Good to be here.
And my buddy's over there. Right? Where's Bernie? Still around with you? How long has he been with you?
Since the beginning, about 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. Well, how's things going?
Things are good. Things are good. Yeah, we're struggling with the budgets like everybody else. And
you're plugging along.
Yeah,
now,
we're still plugging along.
We have a clip, and I know I showed it to you, and maybe we'll get to show it, about in Rhode Island there was an investigative report done as to every time the governor calls a state of emergency in the state, usually because of snow. In fact, it's happened 3 times this year, all because of the weather. The ACI guards get 2.5 times their wages. Their regular wages is our regular wage, hourly wage, is $29 an hour. Their 2.5 time wage is $72.50, I believe.
So I'm guessing they're praying for snow about every other day.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a nice deal.
Yeah, certainly we don't operate that way in Massachusetts. When we're considered public safety officers 24 hours a day. So if you get called in, or if you're called in and you're off duty, you would get you get overtime, you get time and a half. But if you're scheduled for duty and there's a storm or whatever, we'll go out and find ways to pick you up in a 4-wheel drive if we have to and bring you in. But if you can't get in, but you get your regular pay. We don't pay you anything extra for.
Yeah, because it kind of doesn't make any sense, because if they're in the prison, they're not out shoveling snow. They're not out
we use
plowing
inmates
streets.
do that. We have inmates that go out.
You have inmates do that.
We actually did in Dartmouth. They have a bylaw there, or they have a town law that says that if you don't shovel the sidewalk in front of your home, not your personal sidewalk, but in front of your home, that you can be fined for it. So the chief contacted me and worked with the Board of Selectmen and said, look, the elderly, the people that can't go out and shovel their own walks, the law's on the books, but is it fair to really do that? So we said, look, the chief called to get the inmates to go out and shovel those that have the. So we did. We got crews out there and started shoveling the walkways and trying to clean up in front of their homes so that they didn't run into a problem.
And by the way, the inmates choose to do that, right? They agree to do that.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you're not making them do that.
No, we're not making them do it. We have inmates that go out. We paint fire stations, police stations.
You paint them?
Paint them inside, outside, senior centers,
churches.
Landscaping. We build handicap ramps. We actually built really an incredible treehouse at the IDDI school, which is a school, residential school or home for severe head trauma cases, people that are wheelchair bound and really don't have much of a life at all, but have an opportunity now to be able to go up by wheelchair ramps up into a treehouse to be able to see the world.
Cool.
Yeah, and the inmates built it. It took them about 6 months to do it.
And I'll bet you the inmates felt pretty good about it.
Oh, they felt great about it. They felt great about it. They've done some pretty remarkable work. They restored the lighthouse, the Butler Flats Lighthouse, which is a historic landmark in New Bedford. We sent them out on a boat, and they loved it in the summer, of course, for 2 summers. And they went in, they scraped the inside, scraped the outside. We did a cookout on the outside every Friday for them,
now these are chosen inmates. I mean, these are guys. They're not murderers. And
yeah, they're generally in the last 6 months of their sentence. These are people that they're all coming back into the neighborhoods. And my philosophy is, look, we should be preparing them for reentry.
Right.
And and they get a lot of accolades. They painted the inside. Now these are the guys who were on the restraints, the tandem workers, we call them. Some people call them chain gangs. They painted the inside of every senior living complex in Taunton, the high-rise buildings. And the seniors were baking them cookies, and they were painting the inside and making the place look nice and fresh for the seniors when their families came at Christmas and Thanksgiving. And some of those buildings hadn't been painted in 10 years.
And didn't you get in a little bit of trouble with your friends, your good friends at the ACLU for doing that?
Oh, they love to write to me and talk to me all the time, because they didn't want us to. They wanted us. Believe it or not, I got a letter from a group called Americans United for Separation of Church and State out of Washington, D.C. And they were threatening to sue me if I continued working on the old Dighton church that we were refurbishing that had been built in the 1600s. And our inmates went in and were bringing that thing back to, not completely its original state, but really brought the thing back so that people could, yeah. And I get this letter and said, if you continue doing this, we're going to sue you. It's a violation of the Constitution for you to be doing this, separation of church and state. Right. So I was so angry, I wrote him back, I penned a letter immediately and said, first of all, if anybody's violating the Constitution, it seems to be you, by threatening to sue me and stop these inmates from doing something good for good people. And who are you to say that they can't have the right of self-determination simply because they're in prison? They choose to go out and do this and want to make a difference.
You're not making them do it.
No. So if anyone's violating anybody's right, so my suggestion to you is I'd continue writing those briefs, because not only am I going to continue to finish this church, but I'm actively going out and looking for more churches to do so that we can help good people have their money go further to do good things for people. So I never heard from them again, but you get that. And unfortunately, I think today too often, those of us who are in government, we're going to see those kinds of people who are pushing back and trying to eliminate, of course, we know about the Pledge of Allegiance and all these things and prayer in the schools and so forth. And they just keep creeping further and further along to a point where they want to sort of undo history in our country and tradition.
Exactly. Well, they want to take the "In God We Trust" off the dollar
bill.
Well,
what are they going to do? Chisel it off the Lincoln Memorial?
Yeah, if they had the way, they would.
But this is the problem we have. Try to go to another country. for example, a Muslim country and say that you can't use the Quran anymore. You know,
Oh,
you can't speak about Allah here.
You can't do it here.
You try to do that in a country with a Muslim faith, right, and say that they can't worship. That won't happen.
God, look at just somebody making a cartoon out of it, and they want to tear people's heads off.
Right. So you know, look, this country was, our founding fathers, you know, had God and believed in God and believed in the foundation of our country being built around this, our Creator.
Freedom of religion.
Our Creator, yeah. So if you don't agree with that, that's fine.
Right.
But that is rooted in our history. And so no more could you go to Israel and start talking about the fact that, you know, Jesus didn't exist and you can't talk about him anymore. It's not going to happen. You're not going to have that happen there. So
why does that happen?
Why are we allowing this kind of thing to go on here? Nobody says that anybody can't practice their religions, but let's not suddenly think that we can now recreate, you know, and unravel history and what this country was founded on, and that's what goes on. So you get these groups that push back at you know, religious groups and government and so forth, and I think what has to happen is too many people have gotten to believe that they have to be politically correct about everything.
Everything.
Yeah. So, you know, when you stand up to these people and say, you know what, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Okay, and I'm not changing.
And there should be more of that. There should be more people like you to do that.
Well, I think we have an obligation to do that.
Right.
And if it's right, you stand up for it, and don't feel somehow that you have to parse everything and sort of water things down in a way that begins to unravel, you know, the very foundation of what our nation was built on. I mean, this is what goes on. So, and we get those things every once in a while, and I'm a big believer that if you're doing the right things, fight for it. And fight on principle, and more often than not, those people who are trying to sort of rewrite things they're going to go away.
They're going to back off.
They're going to go away.
Well, right. I think of something that happened in Cranston last year. There's over the door, I guess in stone, they had I don't know, "In God We Trust" or something like that, and this girl claimed to be an atheist, and I'm sure it came from the parents. It wasn't the 16-year-old girls that decided, oh, I can't go into school, I can't walk through the door because that's above the door. Well, what about all the kids that didn't bother?
Right. Well, that's the problem.
But then they're blocking it off because of it. They didn't back off.
Well, look, that's no different.
Well, they didn't stop them, I should say. That girl won.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not looking to get too far afield on this, but I would tell you that's not much different than the law that was recently passed in Massachusetts, where now they're saying that in elementary schools, that children that believe that they are of a different gender.
Transgender. Oh my God!
Now
they're going to put new bathrooms in, right?
Well, no, not new bathrooms. What the law says.
So they got an option.
What the law, they have an option. If a boy believes he's really a girl, then that boy has a right to go in the ladies' room,
right?
And cannot be denied access to the ladies' room if the women that are in there feel uncomfortable. That cannot be a reason why they can be denied.
Feeling uncomfortable.
But that goes to my point. We're taking the 92 or 98% of the people,
right,
who have normally used that as a segregated bathroom,
right,
and being told, if we're going to send somebody in there from another gender who believes that they're your gender, whether you're uncomfortable or not, we can't deny them access. You have to be inconvenienced,
right,
around the fact that this one individual feels different. And what's really interesting about it is that the law also says that transgender child must be addressed by their gender preferred name in the classroom when they're called upon to answer questions and what have you, and that when they do the transcripts of that child, that student, must reflect their chosen gender name on the transcript.
Now who chooses their gender name, them or the parents?
I don't know.
What if the kid decides today, I want to be called, my name's Robert, I want to be called Bobby, B-O-B-B-I-E, today.
Well, we have that.
Tomorrow I want to be called Robert.
Yeah, well, we had that. Well, that's the thing, and that's an interesting question, because that was one of the first things I said. Well, who makes the determination whether or not this person really is transgender? And they said it's up to the school. If the school believes enough that this person's telling the truth, they can make that determination. Not by medical doctor, not by anybody else, but the school officials can make that determination.
What is the definition of transgender anyway?
Well, someone that believes that they're really not the gender they were born to be.
Yeah, but don't they have to have a physiological
no, there's not a requirement.
Or something?
No, they can say that they feel like they're like this guy in Massachusetts that's suing and wants us to pay for his operation.
Yes, that's crazy.
That's a whole other outrageous piece. That guy was in our prison, and he sued us because we wouldn't call him Michelle.
Yeah, his name was Michael, right?
Yeah. He wanted us to call him Michelle. But the point being that, you know, that's fine. But as I've said many times before in interviews about this issue, his argument's not with us. It's with God. It's not with us.
You didn't make
why
him a
are
man?
the taxpayers paying for something that he feels he should have been
shafted.
created differently?
Yeah.
I mean, that's not the taxpayer's issue.
Right.
It's his.
And we're talking about $1 million deal.
Oh yeah, we're talking about big bucks. Yeah. And the judge ordered that the taxpayers must pay for that. And that's outrageous. But these are the kinds of things that go on where, as you said, and we got to this point because the majority of the people who have always believed and always supported this approach to whatever, the majority anymore, it doesn't matter. It's the person in the minority who's feeling whatever they're feeling. You have to accommodate that person, whether it inconveniences the majority of the people.
Right.
And it's come to a point where if you look at the people who end up paying in the end, I don't care whether it's the people paying for the operations of prisons or paying for some other issue, the people that are constantly having to dish it out are people who have nothing to do with the reason that the money has to be used.
Right.
And we find that in the prisons. We find it in a lot of other venues where somebody's look at the welfare issue in Massachusetts. Look what's going on there. There are 19,000 people in Massachusetts who are on welfare. They don't know who they are and they don't know where the money is. They don't know where
right.
Well, they've just been told that it's actually now 47,000 and counting.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, and that all started because they were getting checks back or sent back to them.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to deal with that is a direct deposit.
Yeah. Well,
and the argument, I can see the argument against that already.
Right.
Well, I can't afford an account in a bank.
Right.
So that's why I can't have it.
But look, you know, if people are able-bodied individuals who can work, there should be no handouts here. If you're an able-bodied person in work and you can't get a job or don't have a job, then you can do some public service.
Right.
Go out and help clean up a neighborhood. Go work at in a daycare center. Go do something for a minimum of 4 hours a day if we're going to pay you and support you, being the taxpayer. Why shouldn't we get something in return for that?
Right.
Why should it be a freebie? If you're an able-bodied person that can work, go to work. And you know what, honestly, in the end, they're going to feel better for it.
Absolutely.
They're going to feel better about themselves, their self-esteem, their self-worth. And but handing things out to people, we know that from children. If you just hand a kid an allowance every week and there's nothing associated with it, like make sure your room's clean, right? Make sure the trash is out, make sure your room's clean. They don't feel any association or value to that money. And then what value do you feel about even getting a job when somebody's just going to give it to you? And
or when it becomes less beneficial to have a job than it does to get the free ride.
Look, there's a lady, this is a true story. There's a woman who could have, she could have made, I think she could have offered a job for, I think it was somewhere close to $50,000. But by the time that she paid her taxes,
right. And
she
the
would have made,
used to go to work and all that kind of stuff.
She would have made less than what they were giving her on subsidies, so she said, I'm not taking the job.
Right, why?
Right, and that's the problem with our system. It's set up, unfortunately, government in so many venues is set up to encourage people to be less than motivated to work.
To spend more time trying to figure out how not to work.
Right.
Than to work itself.
Right. And if you look at Bob, for example, look at the way that the system is set up for people in public housing. For example, if you are a young person starting out, you need public housing. Okay, you got a job, it doesn't pay a lot of money, but So your rent is commensurate with it. Say the most you can ever be paid.
Sure.
They put a cap on it. Say $900 a month.
Right.
But because you don't make that much money, they charge you $500 a month, based on your money. So you really don't want to be in public housing. You want to eventually own your own home and get ahead. But every time you get an increase, they increase your rent.
Right.
So you can never start banking money to try to get out of this. So you're trapped.
Right. Exactly.
And what's real interesting that I learned recently is that if you, for example, say you have 3 children, and you're in public housing and you have a 3-bedroom unit in public housing. Your kids are going through school. Right. You're making like 20 grand. Then you're up to about 25,000. The maximum you can be charged for that 3-member unit, three bedroom unit, is $900 a month. That's all. So when you get to
and that's with everything included.
Yeah. So you get to $900 a month. Okay. After that, they can never charge you any more than $900, no matter how much you make. Now your 2 sons are still living with you. They're each making 60 grand because they've been through school and now they got a job. You don't ever have to give up that apartment for your entire life. You can stay there for that entire time with both your children making 60 grand, and maybe you're now up to 50 or 60 grand yourself. And they will never raise it above $900 for the rest of your life.
Wow.
And you don't have to leave. You can stay. And these are the kinds of things that the public aren't aware of.
And by the way, in a state like New York, or a city like New York City, with the rent control and whatever,
and the soda control.
Well, they just knocked that out.
Oh, did they?
That got knocked
He's
out
looking
already.
to do something else now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Something else.
Yeah. Something to do with sugar. Anyway, where they have the rent control there, you got an apartment. As a realtor, I know our rents are outrageous in New York City, but in these rent control buildings, because of stuff like that, these people are generations. They just go from generation to generation, and they're paying $500, $600, $700 a month when that apartment would bring $3,000 a month. Some of these
absolutely, absolutely.
And they just pass it and they sublet it.
Yeah,
they sublet the apartment.
Yeah, yeah. It's these are the kinds of things when we see that if you just take the 2 things we've just talked about alone, and you think about how much money, all right, we are losing, the taxpayers are losing it. We're dishing out. For lack of accountability. If we started holding, agencies accountable and making them report every month in a very sort of synchronized model that was very specific, you'd capture millions and millions up to billions of dollars by just holding people accountable to do the right thing. But nobody wants to do it.
And one of the reasons why, because in their mindset, the people that are supposedly checking on these people and watching them, the social workers or whatever, if they were told to really go gung-ho and check out who's robbing and who doesn't belong on welfare, who's not really qualified, and they really knocked out 20% of the people on welfare, what happens to 20% of the jobs in the welfare?
Right.
The people,
they
that
lose
are
the
working,
job.
the social workers.
Right, they lose the job.
In their mind, they're saying, well, we're going to lose 20% of our guys.
But keep in mind, the more that you make available, the less you charge the taxpayer, the more the taxpayer is willing to invest. So you'll create more jobs. So
I know, but that's not their mindset.
That's not their mindset, no. But it's really interesting. If you look in Massachusetts, for example, do you remember the drug lab situation where the chemist,
yes,
for 7 years was altering the
she affected so many criminal results, criminal trials, right?
They're estimating right now, never mind how many people are going to be released, maybe up to 10,000.
Murderers, rapists, all kinds of people.
Major drug dealers, all, and in some federal cases that use state evidence.
Why? Why did she do it? Incompetence or just?
No, she I don't know that they ever really identified exactly why she did it, but a lot of this could have been avoided. They're estimating by the time this is all done with lawsuits and people are going to sue that were incarcerated that shouldn't have been incarcerated because she tainted their evidence or whatever. They're talking about maybe close to $1 billion to the taxpayer for this one issue. Now,
one person.
But here's an example of how. Now, this could have been prevented if the governor had put in place a program whereby they had
cross-checks
systems in place, which is really the governor's job. And the governor, I spoke to the governor about this when he first got elected and said, listen, you need to I can tell you how you can put 1,000 cops on the street without raising taxes. I can show you how you can capture millions of dollars for programs that you otherwise preparing to cut without raising taxes. Here's how you do it. You build in an accountability program for every state agency, and you hold that state department head accountable to have a meeting every month with their managers.
Right.
And what you do
Which is what you do.
Which is what we do. And you measure the indicators. Take, for example, the DPW. The DPW. You bring the guy in. How many shovels do you have at the beginning of the year?
Right.
This is the first quarter. Well, I had 500. Okay, how many you got now? 200.
Well,
where are the other 300? Did they break?
Did they take them home?
Did somebody steal them?
Right.
Where are they?
Right.
You got to know the answer to that question. Now, if they broke, do we have an inferior product that we bid on that we need to rebid because we're not getting value from it? If they had, and then you look at overtime and you look at family medical leave and you look at all these things to make sure in real time, every day, that's all measured.
Right.
If they did that in the drug lab, Bob, what would have happened is, in the
right
first
away.
quarter, they would have said, hey, this chemist here, she's doing 5 times, and she's a superstar. What's wrong with the rest of these chemists?
Right. Either they're too slow or she's doing something wrong.
And they would have said, well, yeah, we should look into that, because they might have started out by commending her, but when they were commending her, wanting to know why these people weren't doing as well, and when they looked at it, would have said, holy smokes, it isn't that this girl's doing well. She's doing everything wrong, and she's creating a big problem for us.
Right.
They would have known that the first year. How many millions, well, certainly far less than $1 billion, but millions of dollars we would have saved. Now retrials that never would happen. It would have been 6 years of people that would not have been released, would not have stuff tainted, but would have gone to jail for the right reasons. And here we are. And that's one of many issues like this, where government refuses to put systems in place to hold people accountable, like in the private sector.
Right, right.
And
what is it? They don't listen to you because you got an R in front of your name, right?
Well, you know,
meaning Republican.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it isn't so much about listening to me as much as it is just
listen to logic.
Yeah. Well, and think about government as you would your own personal business. Would you? I mean, would you just keep doling out money to people and not know where your money were going? Because if you're trying to make a profit, how are you going to do that?
Right.
If you don't know where your expenses are, and you don't know whether some vendors charging you 3 times as much money for something because you just don't want to put a system in place to check it. If you don't audit things in your company, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Right.
So why do we not care when it's taxpayers' money and say, you know what, it's too much work for me to drill down and put a system in place and hold people accountable, because that's just too much work. I don't have time for that. I'm more interested in the politics and doing that kind of thing. I'll make things look like they're really going well, and that'll be enough for me, and I'll be able to just do whatever it is I have to do.
Plus, you don't rock the boat.
Well, you know what? That's part of the problem in government.
That is a big problem in government. I mean, I did it when I worked in the mayor's office in Pawtucket. You know, yeah. I started programs that saved money. I grabbed all the vouchers, the cash vouchers that all the secretaries had. I said, because I knew that they were going, this one was going to this place, buying stuff, this one's going to that place, paying 2 and 3 times the money. I said, that's stopping now.
Right.
I put an in City Hall store together, and they had instead of paying $2.98 for one legal pad, you could buy a dozen of them for $2.99. Gee, and they didn't have to leave for 2 hours to go shopping.
Right. Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
They didn't like that too much, but and also because they get their free bottle at Christmas time. So for their bottle of scotch or whatever, it was costing thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah, and you know why? Because if you dare to tell somebody something they don't want to hear, they won't vote for you.
Right. Exactly.
They won't vote for you. So leave them alone. You know, leave them alone. I don't want the guy mad at me because he won't vote for me. If you hold him accountable like you would if it was your business, you know, but it's not your money. What do you care? You know, and that's the kind of thing that's gotten us down this road across this country. It's people that are elected to represent the interests of the public, get in there, and when they get in there and they get with the rest of the people underneath the dome, they start to forget about. It all becomes insider politics. Right, who's going to do this committee?
They're all reformers when they start.
Right.
And once they're in there, they become the same damn.
Well, it becomes a trade. It's like a trade. It's a trading facility, if you will. It's where, all right, I'll give you this if you give me that.
Right.
My people need this, I might need that. Right. Meanwhile, what they're not thinking about, sorry about that, I didn't mean to move your set. But what they're not thinking about is this is somebody else's money.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're the caretaker.
Well, it's always easier when it's not your money. It's always easier.
Right, but you got to respond to the shareholder. The shareholder's the investor. And you got to remember that they put you there, trusted you to do the right things, and you're utilizing their money in a way that's not taking care of them. It's taking care of your own agendas to advance your own political careers, and that's not okay. That's not okay.
Now quickly, because we're running out of time. Every time I can do it 2 hours with you. You just went down to where? Where'd you go to? Texas?
El Paso, Texas. Yep,
Texas.
down at border school. Yep.
And you didn't take me. I'm very mad at you for that.
If I
get on there.
Yeah, but I'm not sure they would have let you come back. Once you got to that border, they might have pulled you in. They'd have pulled you in.
They might have me running.
They've heard about you. Yeah.
They might have running the border down there.
You know those guys sleep out there? Did you know that?
No.
I asked them. I said, "Hey, what do you got? How about water and everything?" It was just like nothing around. We're at the border, and one of the border agents said,
"The border agents sleep out,
yeah,
out in the prairie there."
They're at the 3 days at a time, 4 days at a time. I said, "Well, what about water and all that?" He says, "Well, we try to bring enough with us." And I said, "But what do you sleep on?" He said, "The ground."
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
But
now I'm always wondering why. Thankfully, it doesn't happen very infrequently where one of them gets shot.
Yeah, I was with one of the guys that was shot at during the last one.
Well, shot are two different things. I mean, gets killed where they sniper them from across the border, or when they grab 15 or 20 guys and nobody they don't gang up on them and maul them and kill them.
Right.
But they just go, "Oh, you got me,"
Right. But what happened? Well, when we were there, they were saying that these guys are watching us as much as we're watching them. We're right on the border.
Right.
And
the coyotes are watching that.
Huh?
They call them coyotes.
Yeah, the Rio Grande. You know how big the Rio Grande was? About, I don't know, maybe from one side to the other where we were, 6 feet.
Really?
Dry. Nothing there.
Walk right across it.
Walk right across it. And we could see as we were down there were a bunch of sheriffs and so forth there on this tour, and you could see a dust cloud coming from the other side where they were riding up to see on the other side, see, because they're always monitoring us too,
right,
to see what's going on, and they're watching to see where the law enforcement people are. But look, it's a dangerous place.
Right.
There are a lot of people that are being farmers and everybody else. These illegals are coming across, and they're killing people. They're kidnapping the wealthy people that are on our side of the border,
right,
that have relatives in Mexico or were from Mexico, bringing them back and holding them for ransom. And there's some serious. I mean, the murders that are happening to innocent Americans along the border is unbelievable. I think it was like 12 a day out near Arizona.
Wow.
And so it's a real serious problem. And we were down there to learn more about it, but we've got issues now with gang members and people coming up into the Northeast,
right,
New Hampshire, so forth. And what's real interesting is how they smuggle the stuff across. There's about, I think, 11,000 trucks that come across that border every day. And
you can't watch them all.
You can't watch them all, and they set up dummy runs.
Right, they let you catch one run. I love Border Patrol. Yeah. I love that show, Border Patrol.
Yeah.
But you know something? I have a great solution to that. Take the Jewish folks out of Israel. They're the best at watching and minding their border.
Give
right?
them Mexico.
Give them the border. Give them along the entire American-Mexican border, how many miles we took from them by taking them out of Israel.
Right.
Square footage, square miles. Give them that width of the border. And first of all, we wouldn't have to pay them billions of dollars a year to defend themselves over there. Then the Muslims can all fight with each other. They won't have the Jewish folks to fight with anymore.
Right.
And we'll have a border that is as tight as a drum.
I'm going to be heading over there.
To Israel?
Yeah, to do some work on extremists and terrorists.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, when are you going there?
Don't have a date set, but probably next fall.
Oh.
And go for training before that, 3-day training before that, and then scheduled to go over with other law enforcement officials from around the country.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And people that don't know, Sheriff Hodgson here is an elected official. You're
yes,
elected
I am.
every 6 years.
Every
right?
6 years. Every 6 years, yep.
And quick, last but not least, what does it cost to house a prisoner in your prison versus a prisoner in the rest of the Commonwealth?
Well, we have the lowest cost per inmate. We're at $70 a day. And we have the second largest inmate population in Massachusetts. We have some who, one department's got 357 more, and they're double what we are. But we are the lowest cost per inmate in Massachusetts at $70 a day, and we're pretty proud of that.
You should be.
Yeah.
Well, you should be.
I got a great staff, and they work hard to keep the costs down and do the right things. So I'm fortunate that way. I'm pretty blessed as a sheriff.
You are. Well, thank you for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
Well, don't
Enjoyed
leave because I got to say this. I keep talking about it. We talked about that Massachusetts, the New England CC pharmacy. We only got 2 minutes, so I got to run through this. I apologize. I never read. I always just throw stuff out.
I didn't know you
there.
could. But
I know.
This would be great.
And they allegedly caused the death of 48 people and did serious injury to 720 other people who were seeking relief from decades of extreme pain. That's chronic pain sufferers. Most everyone that has a sore back or stiff neck has experienced being out of commission for a day or two and understands what pain is like,
right.
But they don't really know what real pain is like. But have you ever had pain so severe that it brings tears to your eyes? So severe that you got a pounding headache that won't go away. That's chronic pain. A burning, stinging, piercing pain so extreme that it's impossible to read, impossible to concentrate, to think clearly, or even to sleep.
I used those excuses when I was in elementary school.
Did you?
Yeah.
Pain that's your companion 24/7, pain that's relentless, that increases in severity every 36 to 48 hours. People that are in chronic pain can tell when a storm is coming because of the barometric pressure changes.
These weathermen better look out.
That's right. That's a fact. Welcome. This is the world of a chronic pain sufferer whose nerves sometimes are infringed upon by a spinal injury, like an accident of some kind. In many cases, it's a car accident. Well, here's a perfect example there, Sheriff. There's a spine of a person. There's a neck of a person, upside down, I might add. There's a head, and there's a neck, and this person has a titanium plate in there to make up for cracked vertebrae that was smashed from a rear-end collision. A car rear-ended this person and broke 3 vertebrae in the neck and also broke the disc. The disc collapsed. The nerves get bound in there, pinched, as they say, and the burning pain down the arms, it's so bad, can't even hold a magazine, can't hold a newspaper. This is a side view of that same person with 5 screws. 5, you only see in 3, but there's actually 5. There's 2 on the bottom, 1 in the middle, 2 on the top, holding the neck together, holding the neck in place. And that's me. This is me.
Wow.
This is my neck.
Wow.
11 years ago, I was rear-ended, and I've never gotten a dime from it in 11 years. Never made 1 dime from it. It's still in litigation, actually.
Wow.
I got hit by a guy that was not watching what he was doing. I was stopped less than a half a mile from my house.
Wow.
Left blinker on, ready to turn, and all of a sudden I wake up in a rescue squad. And
I got rear-ended by a drunk driver doing 70.
Really?
Massachusetts. Not long after I moved here, I was just maybe 3 months into my sales job. And I moved from Maryland.
Holy God.
Yeah. The guy told
It
me.
must have been on 95 or 495
It was
or
up
something?
on Route 3 near Burlington.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, they run up there.
And when they brought me in the emergency room, they took me down for x-rays. The doctor came back and said, I got some bad news. I said, what's that? He said, looks like you broke your back, but we're not sure yet. We're going to take you back down for more pictures. He came back. He said, look, I got good news and bad news. I said, what's that? He said, the good news, you didn't break your back.
The bad news?
You broke your neck.
Oh, God.
And it was a hairline fracture in my C7. And I got a couple bulging just like you. But mine certainly wasn't as bad as yours. But I can imagine the pain you must have had.
I guess we're out of action, aren't we? Huh?